Warning. In this video I will be using some extremely offensive language. Now I will put it in context, but if you are easily offended, this is your heads up. Turn off this video right now. In years to come, when we talk about 2020, the only things we'll mention will be the pandemic and other things related to it. But it struck me that throughout the year opinions have changed. When coronavirus was first announced, I was very blasé about it. I thought it's just a mild flu. The best thing to do is to go and catch it, and in a few months we'll all be immune. How wrong I was, because then the deaths started. First of all, there were just a few, then there were dozens, then hundreds, then thousands and hundreds of thousands. So I revised my thinking, and now I don't go within 2 meters of anyone when I'm out walking, and I always have a mask on me, because that requires very little effort and it's the sensible thing to do. And changing one's opinion when presented with new evidence is something that anyone with a modicum of intelligence will do. But those people who continue to deny the facts which are being presented to them by scientists and doctors and nurses are just being pig-headed or ignorant. Because I'm much more likely to trust the opinion of a nurse who's just done a 16-hour shift on a COVID ward than some tit on Facebook who's got a dog as his profile picture. However, sharing my opinion on Facebook led to me being unfriended and blocked. But that's a good thing, because the guy who blocked me is an utter tit. Saying that he was a friend is a bit of an overstatement. I've been in the same pub as the guy once, and I didn't speak to him, but then I didn't have to. He's one of those people whom, when they enter a room, decide they're the most fascinating individual in there and that every fucker has to hear about their life. He was sat a good 25 feet away from me, but then suddenly erupts, "I've got a Fender Stratocaster!" And I thought, "Oh, get you, you've got an electric guitar." And I was tempted to walk over and say, "I've got a Strat, and a Telecaster, and a Riverside Customs thing, a Crafter, a couple of Ibanez, an ESP Eclipse, and 2 Gibson Les Pauls, so get off your fucking high horse." And half an hour later, he was talking loudly about his scooter. And I know a lot of people like Vespers, but I can't understand it. If you've gone to the time and effort of passing your motorcycle test, then buy a bloody motorcycle, not a step-through that's been designed so it can be ridden by a woman wearing a skirt. Unless you're French or Italian, then it's fine. I won't name the chap in question, although I will point out he's got multiple Facebook accounts. You know the type of person. They'll say something ridiculous, then log into another account and back themselves up. So he was ranting away on Facebook, saying that coronavirus isn't that serious, it's a scam, it's a plandemic, and then said he's not scared of it, even though he has underlying health conditions. So I decided I'd weigh in and be an arsehole. So I asked, "Do you mean underlying health conditions rather than underline? Because someone who can't use basic fucking English is unlikely to be a medical expert." Deleted and blocked. But he also deleted the entire thread of the conversation. Probably from realising he looks a bit of a thick twat. And I know at present these people are called COVID deniers or conspiracy theorists or truth seekers, but I think they need their own term. And there's a word which originally was descriptive, then it became an insult, and now it's fallen out of common usage. And I think we need to bring it back. Because language changes. My grandfather used to call the radio the wireless, and wireless is now a way to connect to the internet. So there's this horrible word, usually used to mock people with learning disabilities, in particular those with Down syndrome, and I want to make it absolutely clear, I am not making fun of the disabled. But let's bring this word back. And the word is spastic. Back in the 1980s, that word was used as an insult to suggest that someone had below par intelligence. And given that COVID deniers tend to be cognitively deficient, I think the phrase works. So next time someone's ranting that it's all a plandemic, you can just say, "Shut up, you fucking spastic." Or if you see someone ranting away on social media, saying that the lockdowns are all about government control, you can comment, "Dave, you're being a bit of a spaz." And I'd love to be watching the 10 o'clock news, where they're reporting about a group of idiots protesting down in London, for Fiona Bruce to look at the camera and go, "They're a bunch of fucking spastics." And unsurprisingly, the COVID spazzers are coming up with more and more ridiculous claims. The latest one is that the vaccinations aren't real And they say this because the needles are apparently disappearing. And the needles are disappearing because the doctors and nurses are using safety syringes. And when these are used, the needle retracts back into the body to lessen the chance of injury. But of course, the COVID deniers won't have seen these because they're in league with the fucking anti-vaxxers. And they in turn are in league with the 5G conspiracy theorists or the people that think Bill Gates is trying to microchip us. And they're being led by the biggest morons the world has ever seen. But now the tide has turned because conspiracy groups and their leaders are being booted off social media platforms. David Icke is now banned from Facebook and Twitter. But people follow this guy. He believes that the Queen is a shape-shifting lizard, but he denies that the Holocaust happened. He's an utter cunt. But Mr. Icke and those of his kind have also been banned from YouTube. So they've started their own website, calling it Brand New Tube. If you've not seen this website yet, I urge you to, because it is hilarious. It's just littered with fully paid up tinfoilers with a few disgraced doctors thrown in for good measure. But of course, there are a few doctors who say that COVID isn't that big a deal. But they tend to fall into one of three categories, or maybe all three. Firstly, they've been fired and or disgraced, so they're now being paid to spout this crap. Secondly, they're peddling pseudoscience or homeopathy, utter bullshit, and they're doing it for financial gain. Or thirdly, they've just found God. I would lose confidence in my GP if he said 99.9% of doctors recommend one treatment, but I recommend something else. Try drinking snake oil, and I know it works because I had a conversation with Jesus. However, I have an idea to silence the COVID denying spastics. Because they're always banging on that coronavirus isn't that deadly. They'll say it's got a 99.whatever% recovery rate. So whilst the rest of us are waiting to get vaccinated, why don't we get them deliberately infected? What we need to do is lock them inside a pub. And they'd love that because the COVID deniers are always complaining the pubs aren't open, which is what their anger is really about. So we put them in the pub and then we get them infected with COVID-19 and see how long it takes for them to start dying. And I know that might sound harsh, but would it really be a loss? Killing off the COVID deniers would make the human race slightly more intelligent. And after all, they're prepared to kill people with underlying health conditions. Underlying health conditions. And in my opinion, anyone who thinks that they're right to go to the pub or the football or to meet up with their friends over Christmas is more important than not killing someone, well, they're fucking vile and the world would be a better place without them. Merry Christmas. So next time you're online and you see a COVID denier ranting away, firstly, point out all their spelling errors, which they will have doubtlessly made because COVID deniers are generally thick as shit, and then call them a spastic. Let's see how easily they're triggered. I'm not a sheep, I refuse to live in fear. And I can't read. I'm back where I started, so I've finished my walk around this beautiful nature reserve. Thanks for watching.